This is the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brody Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching and publishing services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brody, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. Today, we're being joined by Paul Ryan, author of The Essential James Garner. Paul, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Paul.
And you're actually the first Paul I've interviewed, so that's great.
Wow, okay. Interesting with your name.
Yeah, let's have a bit of fun with it. So do you have any, are you ready to go ahead and get started?
I sure am, Paul.
All right, let's go to our first question. So what is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
Well, the first thing is certainly believing in the topic, and I think if you believe in the topic, persistence is key. So that's absolutely how I followed my strategy. Is that I've been a longtime fan of James Garner, and even though he had an autobiography, I just felt there was more to tell as far as his career versus his personal life. So again, just believing in the topic and just being persistent and just keep going after it.
Well, and your book is very unique because you're writing about a great actor and a celebrity. Did you collaborate with people that worked with James or family members? How did you actually do that process?
Really, the only person that we didn't collaborate with her. Actually, my brother is a co-author of the book, but Gigi Garner, who is James Garner's daughter, was very helpful and with the process and giving us some tidbits about about his career. She actually runs his Cherokee Productions website, which is a company that he started. As a production company. But what was very helpful was when she provided a review of the book, and that just really helped us to really, I guess, add more credibility to the book.
Yeah,
so that's the only person that we really involved with.
Yeah, that's definitely a great endorsement. Do you add that to the editorial reviews as well, or was it as a customer review?
It's editorial reviews, and it's out on the website. It's out on Amazon as well. So as well as a number of other book or other reviews.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's some of the best social proof you can get right there.
You got that right.
Well, let's talk about the flip side. So, what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
Well, kind of on the lines of if you believe if you definitely believe in the topic, you're passionate about the topic, that's the easy part. The hardest part is proving to the publishers that it is a worthwhile topic. So what we did with our book is we provided sample chapters, a sample introduction, and provided it to the publisher. And they asked for a little bit more information, but being that he was such a popular actor, fortunately that wasn't as big of a deal. He's obviously was well known as the topic, but again, still going through the acceptance, the approval process of the publisher. So and I find that too. I certainly have a number of unpublished articles that I feel very passionate about, but still trying to get them published through various publications is just difficult. But so I would say that would be the main thing, is just that the whatever the publication is just really seeing that the topic is worthwhile to publish.
Well, so do you feel that for those that want to get traditional publishing deals, the best way to really make that connection is for those that are writing about celebrities or about actors? Do you feel that really helps with that process?
Definitely, I would agree with that.
Excellent. Well, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about marketing. So please share a marketing strategy that you've used in your book launch that has worked well.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, great question. So The number one method that has worked is certainly online, and I think that if any writer is interested in getting their book out to the masses, is online definitely works. So, for instance, a couple of approaches that I took is certainly Facebook. Did some on Twitter, some on Instagram, but keep in mind who the audience is and the the demographics, the age demographic. So not a lot follow Twitter per se, but a lot follow Facebook. So along with creating a website, jamesgarnerbook.com, I also reached out to a number of the Facebook groups out there. For instance, there's a group called the Official James Garner Facebook page, which has about 110,000 followers. And so I reached out to the person who oversees that, as well as the person who oversees the Rockford Files Facebook page, and said, I wrote a book. Would you be interested in getting a copy to review it? And then we would love to have you post it on the website. So before the book was actually published, again, I reached out to the different people that manage those web pages, and then when the book, right before it was released, and then after it was released, reached out to them, and it's received great feedback from the people that follow those pages. So that definitely helps. So definitely a digital strategy helps, online strategy, as well as just certainly word of mouth. But I would say the focus would be just doing it online. Definitely helps.
Well, it sounds like those are some pretty large Facebook pages as well.
Correct.
Excellent. Yeah, this was funny. You're talking about Rockford Files. I was actually thinking about the Tank movie he did back in the '80s. I love that movie.
Yeah. He that was definitely later on in his career. But, he enjoyed making that. But so like I said, it definitely going online helped a great degree of getting the word out.
Excellent. Well, let's talk about your favorite book. So what is your favorite book, and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
Well, that's kind of a tough one. You definitely made me think about this. It's like saying your favorite movie. But I would have to put in a plug as far as my favorite authors. First of all, that would be John Updike. John Updike really introduced me to just great literature. I'm sure, when I had it in high school, I didn't appreciate it. Then as an adult reading John Updike, but not necessarily my favorite book. But then on Jim Loehr is one of my favorite authors, and Robert Parker, another favorite author. But as far as my favorite book, it would have to be Losing My Virginity by Richard Branson. And the reason for that is a lot of people first look at it and say, oh, it's a business book, and that's all it's about. And it's absolutely, it's a business book, it's a business lessons book, but it's also a life lessons book. It's how to have fun. And really, he is, to me, one of the best examples of someone who balanced the business life, certainly as a billionaire and all the businesses that he built, as well as the having fun out there, being a balloonist and breaking a lot of records in sea travel. And then the other part is his involvement with human interest and say community service and just helping out others. So that's why it absolutely is one of my favorite books, because I'm an entrepreneur myself. I'm heavily involved in community service, and I like to have fun too. So that was the thing. So I guess the biggest takeaway is it's just having that, having the balance of life as much as possible, having a great balance of life.
I couldn't agree more. I had the pleasure to read that book a couple years ago, and I absolutely loved it. He's quite the character.
He absolutely is, and still going strong and still loving life, so which is great.
Well, it's funny. I remember reading about the stories when he was setting those balloon records, and so many times he has come this close to death, and he always makes it out. He really does live a charmed life.
Oh, definitely. And then if I'm about halfway through Finding My Virginity, which is obviously a follow-up memoir of his, and just continuing with all the adventures. And he's very self-effacing, obviously a multi-billionaire, very successful, but he does talk about his failures, I think, even more in the follow-up book. So definitely a read I would recommend as a follow-up to Losing My Virginity.
I'm going to add that to my reading list as well. I'm actually reading a book called Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller right now. That one's been a real eye-opener. Our previous guest recommended a book called Go Giver. So I'm creating a very nice list thanks to our guests on the show for sure. So I think I got about 5 more books in the queue, so lots of good reading ahead.
All right, great. Glad to recommend it.
So let's talk about your favorite quote. So what is your favorite quote and why?
Well, again, something I had to think about, but one thing that is stuck in the back of my mind is I love to learn, and I think that learning is continuous learning is something that really helps us grow, open up our eyes, and open up to opportunities. So I have to give credit to Henry Ford, who his quote on learning, or saying on learning, is anyone who stops learning is old, whether at 20 or 80, and anyone that keeps learning stays young. And then he can just finishes with, the thing in life is to keep your mind young. So that pretty much sums it up as far as my favorite quote and a lot that I believe in.
Reminds me of my grandfather. He passed away in his mid-90s, and one of the stories he always told me was, it's not how old you are, it's how old you feel. And he always said, I feel like I'm 50. So for him to make it to the 90s, definitely agree with that philosophy, and just being the lifelong learner and constantly learning and evolving, and it definitely helps keep you young.
Oh, of course. You know, I mean, feeling young is one thing, but being young is one thing, but certainly feeling young is you know, when we're older is definitely a mindset, and it really helps with having a positive attitude.
Absolutely. Well, Paul, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
The best way is to go to jamesgarnerbook.com, and they can reach out to me that way.
Excellent. Well, Paul, thanks again for being a guest on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Okay. Thanks, Paul. I really appreciate the time.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how to get your book published with a proven system that works, grab a free copy of my book at getpublishedpodcast.com.